My name is Mary Johnson. I am 70 years old. I live in a small town in Texas, where the sun rises fiercely every morning, but the evenings carry a strange kind of exhaustion, sadness, and silence. The streets here are never very busy, yet every corner hides a story. My home is one of those stories. In my backyard stands an old mango tree. Its roots run deep into the earth, and its branches stretch toward the sky. My husband, Thomas, planted it on the day our first child was born. He used to say that trees and children are alike. If you water them with love, they give shade for generations. That day, he was very happy. I was lying in my hospital bed when he walked in holding a small sapling in his hands. "Mary," he said with a smile, "I want our child to grow up knowing where their roots are. This tree will be the symbol of our family." Back then, I thought it was just a tree, but today I understand. It was never just a tree. It was the silent witness to our lives. Thomas was a simple man. He didn't speak much, but when he did, his words carried truth, sincerity, and dignity. He worked hard, sometimes on farms, sometimes in warehouses, sometimes in small stores. His income was never large, but he always said, "Mary, even a little, if it's honest, brings peace." We didn't have much in life, but whatever we had came from hard work and honesty. Our house was small, but our hearts were big. We didn't own expensive furniture, but we had time for each other. We didn't drive fancy cars, but we had each other's shoulders to lean on. David was our only son, kind-hearted, hard-working, and quiet like his father. He spent his life serving his family. As he grew older, he worked alongside his father. David wasn't highly educated, but he opened his own small business and brought his father in as a partner. Together, they worked, supported one another, and built a peaceful life. Then came the happiest moment of our lives, David's marriage. Soon after, he had 2 daughters. Our home was filled with laughter again. One day, David, his wife, and his father Thomas went shopping together. On their way, they were involved in a tragic road accident. All 3 of them passed away on the spot. That day, my world ended. From that moment on, I was alone. I cried silently inside, wondering how my weak body would carry the burden of raising 2 little girls. My granddaughters were Hannah and Laura. Hannah was the elder one, quiet, responsible, and mature from childhood. Even while playing with dolls, she always took care of her younger sister. If Laura fell, Hannah would lift her first and then cry herself. At school, she was always a good student, loved by her teachers and the center of our hopes. Laura was the younger one, beautiful, intelligent, and sharp. She knew how to win hearts with her words. Her eyes were always filled with dreams, big houses, expensive cars, a glamorous world. She often said, "Grandma, when I grow up, I'll become very rich. I'll never let you worry about anything." I would smile and say, "My child, wealth isn't only money. Peace of heart is also a treasure." She would laugh, but I knew the sparkle of the world lived in her heart, a sparkle that often pulls people away from their roots. Time passed. Hannah enrolled in nursing school. I sold my small savings, my jewelry, even the ring I wore on my wedding day, so she could study. When she hugged me for the first time in her white uniform, I felt every sacrifice had been worth it. Laura studied business. For her education, I mortgaged part of my house. I sold my dreams to buy hers. She moved to a big city, a world of bright lights, tall buildings, and powerful people. Eventually, she became a successful businesswoman. She lived in a big city, owned an expensive car, a beautiful house, and a husband who was always busy with business. She sent us pictures, glass-walled homes, swimming pools, luxury restaurants, and foreign travels. In the beginning, she cared deeply. She called me every week, sent expensive gifts, and said, "Grandma, we can never repay what you've done for us." I didn't treasure the gifts. I treasured her voice, because for a mother, the most precious gift is the sound of her child. But with time, her calls became fewer, the gifts became showpieces, and sincerity faded from her words. First, she called weekly, then monthly, then rarely. And when she did call, the conversations were short. "Grandma, I'm very busy." "Grandma, I'm in a meeting." "Grandma, I'll call you later." Each time, I smiled and said, "It's okay, my child, stay busy." But inside, a hollow emptiness kept growing. Hannah often came to see me. She was a nurse, caring for people all day, but in the evenings she sat beside me, massaged my hands, made me tea, and said, "Grandma, you're tired." I smiled and replied, "No, my child, a mother never gets tired." Years passed. One day, Laura called me. "Grandma, you live alone. It would be better if you settled some legal matters, especially inheritance papers, just as a precaution." I said, "My child, if it's really for my benefit, then all right." A few days later, she came with her husband. She arrived in expensive clothes, carrying a designer bag, wearing costly perfume. Her husband shook my hand, but his eyes lacked the respect I once saw in Thomas's. Laura placed some papers in front of me. "Grandma, just sign here and here. It's only a formality." I didn't read them carefully. My eyes had grown weak, and my heart trusted too easily. I signed. I thought, after all, she is my granddaughter, my own blood. But that was the moment when the greatest test of my life began. A few months later, I noticed my bank balance was decreasing rapidly. I assumed household expenses had increased, medicines had become expensive, or maybe I was losing track of my finances. I reassured myself, "It's okay. I'm a grandmother. Even if I spend a little more, what difference does it make?" But one day, when I went to the store and my card was denied, my feet froze. The cashier said, "Mrs. Johnson, your account doesn't have sufficient funds." I felt ashamed. How is that possible? I just bought my medicines yesterday. I came home and immediately went to the bank. The bank officer opened my file, looked at the screen, and paused. "Mrs. Johnson, about $40,000 have been withdrawn from your account over the past 5 months." My legs felt like they had turned to stone. "How is that possible? I haven't used any large amount." He turned the screen toward me. It read, "Authorized transfers, recipient, Laura Mitchell." It felt like a sharp blade had pierced my heart. I read it again, then a third time, then a fourth, but the name remained the same. My granddaughter. I left the bank in silence. I sat on a bench outside. People passed by. Cars moved. The day continued. But my world had stopped. I returned home and sat quietly for a long time. I didn't eat. I didn't drink. I didn't speak to anyone. Then I took out Thomas's old Bible from my cupboard. Inside was a small piece of paper where he had written, "A mother's heart is soft, but her eyes should never be closed." I read that sentence again and again. Then I closed my eyes. Then I opened them. And in that moment, I decided I would not remain weak anymore. The next day, I contacted my neighbor, Mrs. Clark, a retired bank officer. She was a little older than me, but very sharp-minded. We sat in the kitchen, drank tea, and I told her everything. She listened quietly, then said, "Mary, this is legally wrong. You have been deceived." I asked, "What can I do?" She said, "Gather evidence, then decide whether you want to stay silent or stand up for your rights." I took a diary and wrote, "A Mother's Silent Strength, Day 1. I began recording every call Laura made, every promise, every excuse. I saved every bank statement, every transfer, every message. I began turning my weakness into my strength. One day, Laura came to my house. "Grandma, I bought you a new refrigerator. I paid for everything from your account. Don't worry." I gently asked, "Which account?" She paused for a moment, then said, "The one I opened for you." I said, "Show me the details of that account." For the first time, I saw fear on her face. "I don't have it right now, but I'll send it to you." I smiled and said, "All right, my child," but inside, I knew the time had come. The following week, I invited Laura and her husband for dinner. I cooked their favorite food, roasted chicken, potato salad, and the dessert Laura had loved since childhood. but inside a storm was raging. During dinner, I said, "I'm thinking of donating some of my savings to a children's hospital." Laura immediately asked, "How much, Grandma?" I said, "About $25,000. Her face turned pale. "Now?" "Yes, it's better to do good while one is alive." She quickly said, "Grandma, maybe this isn't the right time." I gently replied, "Then show me my account details so I can see for myself." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Her husband put his plate down. Laura lowered her eyes. The next day, I went to the bank with Mrs. Clark. We officially requested details of all my accounts. The truth came out. There was only one account in my name, the old one, now with very little money left. All the rest had been transferred into Laura's personal account, and the papers I had signed were actually power of attorney and joint account documents, signed without my understanding. I looked at Mrs. Clark. "What should we do now?" She said, "Now you decide. Remain silent or stand up." I came home and called Laura. "My child, we need to talk. Tonight. Alone." When she arrived, I placed all the evidence in front of her: bank statements, transfers, and the authorization papers I had signed. She looked at everything silently. Tears filled her eyes. "Grandma, I didn't know this would turn out so wrong. I thought I was helping you." I said softly, "My child, there is a difference between help and control. You turned control into your right." She began to cry. "I made a mistake, Grandma. I promise I'll return all the money." I looked at her, not with anger, not with hatred, but with a mother's silent strength. "Laura, you didn't just take money. You broke my trust, and trust is more valuable than money." I said, "I won't go to court, not yet, but you will return every dollar with interest, and if you miss even one payment, I will take legal action." She nodded. "I promise, Grandma." Over the next 8 months, she returned every single dollar. But during those 8 months, more than money returned, truth returned, conscience returned, and a lost granddaughter returned. She visited every month, sat quietly, held my hands, and said, "Grandma, I never thought I could fall this low." I replied, "My child, falling is not wrong. Refusing to rise is." During those months, her marriage ended. Her husband, who was always busy with business, had poisoned her decisions. He used to say, "Your grandmother doesn't need the money anyway. She's old. What will she even do with so much?" And Laura, drunk on success, had started seeing her grandmother as weak. But when she faced the truth, she separated from her husband. One day she came to me and said, "Grandma, I lost myself chasing success. You helped me find myself again." I held her head against my chest, and for the first time in years, we cried together. Hannah was part of this journey too. When she learned the truth, she cried, "Grandma, you gave us everything, and we took everything from you." I said, "No, my child, you didn't take, you learned. And learning is life's greatest gift." Today, I still live in the same small house. The mango tree still stands. Its branches still bear fruit. But now, when I sit beneath it, I no longer feel weakness. I feel strength. On the last page of my diary, I wrote, "A mother is not weak. A mother is silent. And in that silence lies her greatest strength."